Thank you for tuning in to Stories in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, the podcast about creating the life you want regardless of your story. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to go to find long-lasting love using the most innovative and accurate algorithm based in scientific palmistry. Tired of superficial connections? Start your free Soulmate Connection membership today at loveinyourhands.com. Now here's your host, Cynthia Clark, palm reading consultant and compatibility expert. Hello everyone, this is Cynthia Clark. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about today's topic, and I want to lead in with some palm reading because I think a lot of people who may want to hire a virtual assistant may not know exactly what they should be looking for. And I look at it from the perspective of, do they have certain qualities in their hands? Because of course your hands actually show you all different aspects of your personality. So one of the most important things, of course, is knowing your personality archetype and knowing your energy of who you are. And then you can kind of understand who is a best fit for you. For example, I am a chariot archetype. So I know the best people that I get along with are the air types, which are the thinkers and the evaluators. They're good with the details. This is totally great for me. But another thing that everybody can just check, and I want you to take a quick look at your hands right now, is how is that middle finger? Okay, so the middle finger we call Saturn, okay? And no, we don't just flip people off with this finger. Saturn is your taskmaster, okay? So when this finger is strong, it will actually be quite a bit longer than the two fingers right next to it. So when you put the fingers together, you can see how much longer that finger is relative to the two fingers next to it. And when the two fingers next to it do not come up to the halfway point of the upper phalange, that's how you can tell if your Saturn finger is actually strong. Another thing that you want to check for is the middle phalange, or just all the middle phalanges of your fingers. Okay, so those represent the action zones of your hands. And in particular on Saturn, that's what we call the zone of organization. And so you would expect a virtual assistant to be quite strong in that area. And you would hope that they would be strong in that area because that's what they need to be. So check this, just the overall length of that middle phalange of the middle finger relative to the other phalanges. Okay, so we always look at the hands relative to each other. And that would be two things I would definitely check for in your potential virtual assistant. So that's today's palm reading lesson. And now I'm going to introduce our wonderful guest. So we've got Lorianne Von Speaks, and she is an expert in the area of speaker-author support. She amplifies the visibility of authors, speakers, and messengers while they do what they love, which is speaking. Lorianne has helped spearhead multiple best-selling book campaigns, editing, proofing, through to launch, and social media marketing to help authors create buzz and momentum throughout the social media platforms and increasing their message worldwide. So that's terrific. Lorianne and her team have made it their mission to empower speakers to deliver their message by handling the rest of the details. Prior to starting her own virtual assistance company, Lorianne had over 15 years of professional experience supporting top 100 thought leaders as they built their businesses. So thank you so much, Lorianne, for coming on the show. This is terrific.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I'm learning something. And I think that's part of the fun of this adventure in my life at my age is I'm learning something new with each person that I speak with, and it's just great. By the way, that phalange between in my middle finger, they're really long.
Oh,
So,
perfect.
so it goes to show, and I've always considered myself the detail queen. You know,
Okay.
I am that person that doesn't let things fall through cracks. So it was like, oh, good.
Yeah, that's what I love about hands. It just verifies everything. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
it's very cool.
Lorianne, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to do all of this wonderful stuff.
Well, I had worked with a thought leader for over 15 years. And just so people don't get upset, I knew it was coming. She was 75 and she decided she wanted to sell the business. So I found myself at 60, unemployed.
Oh no.
Oh, that was scary. But, and realized corporate America didn't seem to want a 60-year-old employee, and which on a whole nother level I find really stupid, but okay. And I started my own company, and I'm really glad corporate America didn't want me because I'm having a blast. And I'm now getting to work with speakers, authors, and podcasters at various different levels. And so I help them. It depends on each client. Each client has things they love to do and things they hate to do. And I have a team of 5 women that work with me that we support our clients with social media, with logistics, the book support with regards to proofing and editing and page layout, finding them more stages to speak from. I'm not a booking agent or a speaker bureau, but I work with all those people to find the best stages for my speakers where their ideal clients will be. So
Hmm.
it really depends. Each client is a little different, which makes it
Yeah.
more interesting.
Right. So yeah, so the story of not getting let back into corporate, I mean, that's an interesting story right there because you're right. People hit the age of 55 or 60 and suddenly they're considered too old, which is just so ridiculous because you have so much experience
You
and you
know,
can give a perspective that they wouldn't get otherwise.
exactly. Yet the negative side could be that I'm also not the person that's going to go, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I'm going to go, but wait a minute, did you think about this? so so I never kind of really was a yes man anyway, but
Mhm.
um yeah, you look at corporate America turning down a 60-year-old, you've got 7 years. We're not going to move again, you
Mhm.
know? Whereas the kids, they are expected to have anywhere from 14 to 17 jobs in their life. I'm turning 62 this year. I have had
Mm.
five in my entire life. So it's like, I don't understand their thinking. If they could have an employee for 7 years that has the amount of legacy knowledge that so many of us do,
Mhm.
um, and in an era where technology is like the everything, we're losing our relationships, and that's something that the older worker can really bring to the place of we need to still keep those relationships going. It's the people that we touch, and so relationships are hugely important, and I think we're kind of losing that in corporate America.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm probably one of those who's had at least 17 jobs. So it's like, oh yeah, that was me. Back when I was a kid, I had a ton of jobs, but I had like all part-time jobs when I was in
Yeah.
college. I had like 5 jobs at the same time. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and that's different. I think it's once you've reached that, you've graduated from college or you're really in your space.
Right.
But the Gen Xers, Gen Zs, the millennials
Yeah.
are expected to make moves every 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so we have companies that are investing good deal of money training them, and then
Right.
they leave.
Yes, and that
Start
leads,
training the older worker.
yeah, that leads me actually into talking about our topic for today, because when I started growing my palmistry business online, I really needed some assistance with a VA. And so I ended up hiring somebody who was quite young, and she, you know, she just couldn't work the hours that I needed her to work. And then she was, of course, looking for another job. And it's like, okay, well, you haven't even given this an opportunity, you know? And it was just like, I ended up training her and I couldn't use her. And it was just like, wow, this is kind of disappointing. And
It,
so, yeah, what would you recommend? Like, let's talk about this.
well, and especially though in this era of being virtual, I guess you could make them put their hand up to the screen so that you could take a little bit more of a gander on that level, since you know that level. But for most of us, when you're working with a VA, you need to be very clear on your project and start with one project. Don't just bring them in to deal with your whole office and all the minutia. If they're good, you'll get to that point, but you really want to hire slow, fire fast. That's my belief. Take the time to really vet the VAs. I'm a big believer in keeping our business onshore as opposed to offshore.
Mhm.
I think that that's not to say that there aren't certain projects that can be done by anyone throughout the world, and there are many, many, many platforms that you can hire someone for a project. You just have to be very clear on what your budget is, what your actual need is, your time frames, and I say a deadline, and I always tell them 3 days before I really need it, so that if there is any wobble room, we've created that. But you need to also look at soft skills. Do you get along with this person? Can you have a conversation and you get each other? Does that make sense? I mean,
Mhm.
soft skills are very important with anyone you work with. You want to make sure that there's some kind of balance there, and that you're not afraid to speak your mind, both for the VA and for the employer, because you want to make sure you're clear, you're both on the same page. So um, I'm a big believer in over communicating with a VA.
Mhm.
And if they are an actual VA with a business, they are vested in making you be better, because as you profit, they profit. They, this is their business. It's not a kid that's going to high school and can do something, and they can do Instagram or something for you. I i hire people. I mean, I follow my own advice. I don't do everything.
Mhm.
I realize I work with my strengths, and I hire others to do things for my clients that they're best at, so that we give the best possible service around. So I
So,
think I answered your question.
yeah, so when should people start thinking about actually hiring a VA? You know, I think a lot of solopreneurs, you know, like myself, it's like we're so used to doing everything ourselves all the time that, you know, we don't even necessarily think about hiring somebody to do something for us. You know what I mean?
You're
So,
never going to be able to scale your business and grow if you don't hire people to do the things that, where it could take you 4 hours to do something that they could do in an hour and a half, and you could spend those 4 hours doing your palm reading or your high ticket valuable work. It's well worth hiring the VA, so that in actuality you will earn more. I had one of my clients tell me, she was a coach, and she said that when she hired her first VA, she went from like $1,500 a month. Within the year, had already hit $100,000. So because she could take all that administrative stuff that she was having to do, hand it over to the VA, and that gave her like 10 extra hours of coaching time a week. That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
And when you look at it that way, you need to be doing your high ticket priority items, hire other people to do the rest. And I understand as a solopreneur, sometimes that's a really scary thing to get over, because but you need to work on your mindset about the fact that you are an entrepreneur, not someone who is an employee in your own company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You need to say, okay, I need to bring this person in so I can reach a new level.
So what about the example of somebody who is in just a regular job? And I encounter a lot of these people over the years. They want to change into working for themselves. They have a mission, they want to write their book, they want to do something that really makes a difference in their life, but they are still kind of stuck in like the two worlds sort of place. So maybe they're writing on the side, but they're still working for somebody else. And they, what would you say to them? Like, would it be better for them to just go ahead and hire somebody right away? Or would it be better for them to actually make the transition all the way into working for themselves first? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it really depends on your budget, what you're looking at, and what that business actually is. If you're a coach and you can bring in $300 an hour coaching, I would say from day one, have a virtual assistant. If you are somebody that's just building your business and you don't have clients yet, maybe not so much. It all depends on where you're at financially. I mean, you have to be responsible in your budgetary planning as well. And it is all about planning. If you know, though, that you have no abilities, for me, mine is graphics. I am not a graphics person. You will even see on my website, I don't really have graphics. So it's like, I know that that's not my strength. I have people that do my Pinterest and Instagram because that's not my strong point. I'm much more the business person who can work with a client. So the same is true for any company. If it's Joe the plumber, there are things that you need to just be able to go out and charge that $7,500 an hour for being a plumber and hire someone to do your office work. Don't be doing it all yourself, because you could now be making, 10 more hours at $75 an hour, and you're paying that person 10 to 15, depending on what part of the country you're in. So I do believe that there are certain times when from the get-go, go ahead and have a virtual assistant. But I also know, like when I started after being laid off, I mean, I'm old enough that I didn't have kids and things like that to have to support. My kids were all married and had kids of their own. So I didn't have certain levels of responsibility. So I could go all in, and bet on myself, which I do so wish more people would do. Many people start a business, but still don't bet on themselves. Does that make sense? Because they're so nervous about money or whatever it might be, that they're not giving it 100% because they've still got one foot back in the door of the job or whatever. Yeah. And, I mean, I'm not in a position to judge anybody, because if you've got small kids and you got bills to pay, I get it. It's scary. But if you look at it, if you can be spending those extra 10 hours at $75 an hour and you're giving someone 15, you're still netting $60 an hour that you weren't making.
Yeah, and it's all about, you're right, being committed to your vision
Right.
And at some point you have to take a risk
Yes.
in order to get where you want to go. So if you play it safe for the rest of your life, you're probably going to get the same results that you've always been getting. You're not gonna be able to get out of that situation, you know. So it's like, I call it, you know, moving the needle. What's gonna move the needle? And it's like, well, okay, if I stay in this job forever, like my needle is not gonna move. It's gonna like just tick along, right? But if I take a risk and I actually get myself out there, the needle can really move quite quickly. And that's
Exactly. You do need to take risks. I mean, but but you can take a risk without it being, you know, I'm putting it, if I fail, I'm totally screwed. Do you see what I'm saying? I
yeah,
mean, there can be various levels of risk, and I understand. I'm very practical. I'm not emotional with regards to, yes, let's go do that. You know, I think things through
right.
and
Calculated
really
risk.
take them one step at a time.
Yeah.
And so I understand both sides of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, if you're spending 40-50% of your time doing administrative functions that can be done at a $10 or $15 an hour, you know, level,
Mm-hmm.
and not making the $75 to $150 an hour coaching, I don't understand. You know, that's a no-brainer.
Right. So would it be a good idea for people to actually look at their week and
Hmm.
how much time they're spending on different activities? Like, would that be a good place for people to start?
Oh, yes. You have got to see where you're spending your time. And I'm a big believer in blocking out time, so that I have time. I'm doing my social media, which is only this big, but my social media. And then I do other people's social media. And then there's writing. And then there's, you know, the podcasts, which I so enjoy. And, you know, so I kind of block out time frames, but you need to look at your calendar and see how much time you're actually spending on things. And that could just be a tally sheet where you go, here are all the things that I do. And as you spend 30 minutes, just say plus, you know, plus 30. And if you take that and you either do a column and say, this is, holy crud, you look at Friday afternoon and you spent, you know, 15 hours doing billing, let's say, which can be done by anyone that can work with QuickBooks or whatever your
Mm-hmm.
app or, you know, is. um that's another thing that I give. That's another thing that I give to someone else. So
Yeah.
um but look at what you're spending your time on, and is it the best use of your time?
Right. So what kinds of things can people actually delegate to a VA?
Oh
Like,
gosh.
let's talk a little bit about that.
And here's the beauty of VAs. You don't have to sit there and say, I need you for 40 hours a week. No. You can say, I want this VA for 5 hours a week to do my graphics. I want this VA, because you can have multiple VAs because they have multiple clients, just like I have multiple clients that I work certain hours per month for. And the same is true for any VA. And you can specialize your VAs in what they do best. So maybe you need somebody that'll just do your social media for you. And if you allot an hour a day for social media, that will make a dent in what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm involved in a lot of groups because of the fact that I work with speakers and authors and podcasters. So I put myself into those groups. If you are a speaker or a podcaster, get into those groups. You want to be seen by the people that you want to hire you. Um, um, but you want to spend a minimum of an hour a day on social media. If it's not something you like to do, that's when a $10 VA can be huge. You just need to feed them the bullets. They need to know your voice. When I take on a new client, I always read their book so that I've got their voice in my head. What's their main topic? And of course, we sit down weekly and talk about, okay, this is what I want to focus on this week. I've got this article out or that article out. So, but you can look at the different things, any kind of administration, bill collection, fun job, give it to somebody else. You see, I specialize so much in speakers and authors. A lot of my stuff is, reaching out and doing research. And if you need research done, that's a really good one. And it's something that the young people are really great about. I mean, they have no fear of the internet and just going out there and looking at everything. And there are ways to search the internet that are more effective. And that's just a matter of learning those things. So research, editing, proofing your work. If you're a writer, get a proofer in there, because even I, who proof everybody else's things, I send my stuff that I write to somebody else, because we all look at it as what we thought we said. Mm-hmm. And we can even read it over, and it sometimes doesn't click that we didn't really say what we think we said. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
I really think there are VAs out there to do absolutely everything, but what you need to focus on is what you do best, and look for a VA that you need that specializes in that. And you can hire 6 different VAs at $5, 5 hours. Mm-hmm. And you're still only, at 30 hours a week. So.
No, I like that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think you're absolutely right that not like one VA probably isn't going to do your entire business for you.
Exactly.
So yeah, because that's what I found just in the different experiences that I had with various VAs, is like some of them really had no idea, in certain areas. And it's like, why am I trying to get them to do that when they really they just either won't, they just won't do it, or they can't do it. I had one lady I hired, and I was trying to get her to do my Canva posts, create a little Canva. And it's like, she just had no idea how to do that. She's like, I've never used Canva.
So and Canva's so easy, but that's just it. I think there are, and I'm generalizing because there's a lot of older women that, I created what's on my site all by myself. So it can be done. I hire based on what their specialty is. I have young and I have old. And I can say that because I'm old, but
yeah.
Everybody has their specialty or the thing that they just love to do.
Right, that they'd never get tired of.
Right, yeah. And that's the kind of person you're looking for. So if you're looking for someone to deal with your Instagram, that could be a younger person who just loves to do all that stuff. I myself, not a huge fan, because I don't consider my clients there. But as I tell my clients, you should be on all platforms. I'm on all of them. I focus primarily in Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I do that for myself. But I have a Pinterest expert who I highly recommend, who does my Pinterest and Instagram. And then she feeds me all the graphics in a format for social media that I can use on the other platforms. And it just works brilliantly for me. So that I can say what I want to say in those posts, as opposed to the formulas of Instagram and Pinterest, which.
So here's a question. You touched on it at the beginning of the show. You said, take your time in hiring somebody, but fire them quickly. So this is probably one of my big mistakes that I've made over the years, is like, I give people so much time that, and then I'm just not very happy. And it's like, why isn't this working? How much time should we actually give somebody to see a result, or to see, to see something that you want to see from their work?
Okay. So that's why I say start with one project. You have one project, you give it to them, you are very clear on what you need, what it's to accomplish, your deadline, and your budget. You need to be clear of what your budget is. So how many hours they need to get it done in, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If they don't do it right the first time, you can, and here's even a better thing. It's like, show me your draft halfway through. That gives you a sense of, are they on track? So you don't just let them go off and do. You want to stay in touch and, okay, send me your first draft, second draft, or whatever, depending on what the project is. It's very difficult to generalize with regards to that. But you give them one chance. If they have presented themselves as an expert in that field, I expect them to do the work expertly.
Right.
If I don't feel that I gave the right information, then that's on me, or if I change halfway through, that's on me. Just as a contractor loves it when you change your mind halfway through, because then you get to, get a whole nother level of costs involved. The same is true for a VA. You need to be clear. You need to really know what you want, when you need it, boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is going to take her 2 weeks or him 2 weeks to get it done, say, I want to talk to you next week. Send me your draft where you're at so I can see what's happening. And that way he doesn't spend 2 weeks doing it and it wasn't what you wanted in the first place. So it's really over communicating and staying in touch.
Yeah, communication.
Because too many of us just hand it and just say, oh, it's being handled. And then you go, oh, that's due tomorrow. Where is it?
No, I love this, because you're really making it clear that it's a dual responsibility. So yeah, it's the responsibility of the business person to know exactly what they need and how to communicate that. And then it's up to the person that you are working with to actually accomplish that goal. So
right.
I love that. So you're, a lot of people like pass the blame, like the whole blame game. I hate that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, this is a good way to think about it. So it really gives a good framework to like, okay, this is what you need to be thinking about before you hire somebody.
Right.
And you need to know these things.
And here's another piece of information when working with any kind of employee or partner or client. How is it that they like to be communicated to? You always talk about the golden rule of, treat those as you would like to be treated. Or with communication, speak the way you would want it communicated to you. You need to clarify how they want things communicated. Because there are people that want to write down every word that you say. There are those that just write a few words and get it. And then there are those that you might need to say, okay, now tell me how you see this as I've just described it, so that you're both on the same page at the get-go. Because that saves a lot of problems. Because if you just say, but I told them this, and this, but did you clarify that went in, that they got it?
Yeah.
So whether it's them saying, okay, let me say this back to you. You want boom, 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 boom. And then if they left something out, you go, yeah, but you forgot this. Oh, great. I'm so sorry. I missed that.
Right.
So you need to over communicate, especially when they're not in the office with you.
Right.
Virtual has its real great advantages, especially for small business, because we don't have to deal with, you know, the taxes and benefits and vacation time and guaranteeing them a certain amount of hours. That's the beauty of a VA.
Right. It's very flexible. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of, it's, you know, I feel like really empowered after talking to you. I love this.
Good, good. I'm glad I can help.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, yeah, you don't have to feel like, you know, all those past failures were really a failure. They were just part of the learning curve.
And you know what? I have talked to so many people that say the same thing as you. It's just, it didn't work. Oh, it's such a pain.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, did you do this? And did you do that? And
Oh no, I'm totally inspired now by your conversation. Thank you. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. My
And
pleasure.
okay, so how do people work with you if they want to hire you?
Oh, well, you just go to my website, which is www.lvsconsultingservices.com. It's just my initials, LVS. And take a look at the website. We have a lot to offer. On the very homepage, and this is a karma thing as far as I'm concerned, I promise you won't be put into a sales funnel. You can actually download a white paper that I did on the top 10 ways to create massive growth in your speaking business. If you have a salon or something else, I also recommend just download it. You'd be surprised. There's a few things that are very much speaker oriented, but there's also things that will help you raise your presence. Because as I say, business is being done in social media, whether you're a hairdresser, a plumber, a speaker, a writer, whatever, a coach. On the website, you don't even have to give me your email. You can just download the white paper and it's yours. If you find that you need the help, great, I'm here for you. But I am not going to inundate you with 10,000 more emails saying, but don't you want to buy this? So that's just my little thing, because I love to go get free stuff. I just don't like that 10,000 emails that come after it. So I don't do that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that sounds like really valuable information. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I totally appreciate it.
And everybody out there, remember, you can live the life that you want regardless of your story, and go out there and kill it.
It is never too late in this gig economy. That is the title of my chapter in a book and a new book coming out. So in this gig economy, just go for it. Go for it. And it's fun.
All right. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to Stories in Your Hands. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to find the secret ingredients to your soulmate. Start your free Soulmate Connection membership today using the most innovative and accurate algorithm to match you to potential long-lasting love, all at loveinyourhands.com.